Let's not forget a couple weeks ago, this was the situation with Mark Zuckerberg, with public figures literally threatening to fight him.
I'll fight him. I'll fight Zuckerberg any place, anytime, any rule.
As now it looks like the Zuck wants to switch teams, and will he be successful? As a lot of people are very shocked and surprised by the letter that he just dropped last night that, of course, pushes the Biden-Harris administration completely under the bus, as we have to ask ourselves, why is he doing this now? Did he really have a legitimate change of heart? Or is he scared of a potential red wave coming our way? Or is there a whistleblower that's threatening to release the information anyway, and he's just getting ahead of it? Well, we're going to be trying to break that down, plus a lot more, all here on this independent media broadcast, as Elon Musk just officially responded to this very earth-shattering, eye-opening letter from Mark Zuckerberg saying, quote, sounds like a First Amendment violation, as the letter has 3 major admissions specifically detailing how the Biden-Harris administration pressured Facebook to censor American citizens, violating their First Amendment. The letter admits how Facebook actually acquiesced to the Biden administration and conducted this activity on behest of them, and then also specifically throttled significant stories for the larger political Democratic agenda, playing favorites to one political party for their own personal benefit. That, of course, was really unfair to, the other side, the Republicans, to Donald Trump, and to Americans who actually, cared about the truth, that, of course, were censored, had their livelihoods destroyed, as well as had their First Amendment free speech rights violated by an online technocratic platform that now is trying to shift the blame specifically on the politicians in charge that came to them and demanded that they acted on their behalf. And it's pretty clear to say Facebook acted on the behalf of the Democrats in more ways than one. As this admission by Zuckerberg, specifically what happened in 2020, content surrounding what a lot of people have deemed a major psyop that was only successful because the government had complete control of information during this very tumultuous, uncertain time that the government took full advantage of by, of course, fortifying and certifying that the only voices that people were able to hear was the government's and no one else's. A lot of professionals, a lot of whistleblowers, a lot of individuals came forward and said, hey, there's actually a different perspective to what's going on here that we should listen to, that we should at least ascertain here, that we should at least analyze here. And those voices were totally denied to the American people and the people of the world because of the collusion that happened between the federal government and, of course, Facebook. As intel agencies covered up their tracks of the horrible things that they were doing, as they were literally financing the creation of certain bugs and viruses that were out there to the general public, that they were making sure no one could connect the dots on and hold them accountable for. As, of course, we know, one of the biggest stories in 2020 was specifically the story of where a particular sickness that took over the world came from. That story was deliberately censored from the American public, and in doing so, stopped the prevention and treatment of individuals, which cost them their lives. There's a lot of repercussions here that are absolutely critically important that Mark Zuckerberg is now kind of admitting to, as the disinformation that the government forced on everyone not only cost them their livelihoods, but also, more importantly, cost a number of people their lives. This is significant ramifications here that, if taken seriously, that if investigated, that if held responsible for, will have huge ramifications, not just on the Democrats and the intel agencies that did all of this, but also Zuckerberg himself and the Facebook institution that carried out the orders on behest of the federal government. As Mark Zuckerberg now is officially admitting, yeah, we did this and it was wrong and we shouldn't have. Now, just a couple months ago, we were also reporting to you, and Mark Zuckerberg was on the Joe Rogan podcast, that he kind of alluded to this, that he talked about this in a kind of soft-handed PR kind of way, as Joe Rogan asked Mark Zuckerberg directly when they censored the Hunter Biden laptop story, as Mark Zuckerberg specifically described how the intel agencies came to him and made him censor that particular story. because of, quote, Russian propaganda efforts, which, of course, came out to be not true at all, as, of course, the intel agencies tried to blame everything on a foreign entity that had nothing to do with it, as, of course, the laptop was real. It wasn't a fictional, made-up depiction made by a foreign government. Mark Zuckerberg spoke out against it, now deliberately, officially releasing a letter that, of course, sent shockwaves throughout the whole Democratic Party establishment, as Donald Trump now is taking to Truth Social and saying that this proves that the White House pushed to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop story and much more, and according to Donald Trump's explanation here, was able to rig the last major political battle that happened between him and Joe Biden in 2020. As of course, this letter from Mark Zuckerberg was addressed to the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan of Ohio, specifically with the wording that the White House repeatedly pressured Facebook and Meta to censor content related to the 2021 sickness that took captive of the world. As Zuckerberg detailed how the Biden-Harris administration specifically wanted to take down humor and satire, as of course clown gestures aren't allowed to insecure political leaders that are absolutely trying to dominate and control the local population. As Zuckerberg specifically wrote that the government pressure was wrong and he regrets that he was not more outspoken about it. As of course, the disinformation that the government spread literally had real-life consequences that left people to lose their lives in many specific instances that are absolutely egregious and infuriating. As of course, independent media that was speaking the truth, that was providing a perspective to the general public that could have saved their lives and saved the few that of course listened, that was suppressed. That was deplatformed, demonetized, and deleted from big tech social media companies that, of course, did the bidding of the federal government and the intel agencies that controlled them. And we know they controlled them because we saw it through, of course, the Twitter files. As, of course, we have to understand that the levels of censorship that the federal government and the intel agencies placed on Facebook isn't something that just happens to one particular platform, as of course it happens to all platforms, and the platforms who of course don't cooperate go under federal investigation, like Twitter, or are targeted for arrest, like the CEO of Telegram that was just arrested and charged with 12 things related to what happened on his platform that he had absolutely nothing to do with. As the federal government plays a central role in your algorithm, and it might be why there's a larger kind of demoralization effort that has psychologically plagued the American people through social media in such a horrible and negative way. As of course, the rabbit hole probably goes a lot deeper than we even understand it right now, but the surface level of what we're getting right now is huge, is major, and clearly is a First Amendment violation, with the government deliberately spreading fake information that has cost Americans their lives. As now Mark Zuckerberg is saying his goal is to be neutral and not to play a role in one way or another, especially during this very kind of tumultuous political cycle. Will he be able to do that? Well, the White House just also issued a statement, as Reuters is reporting that the administration, quote, encouraged responsible action to protect the public health and safety. As they said, our position has been clear and consistent. We believe tech companies and other private actors should take into account the effects their actions have on the American people while making independent choices about the information they present. Yeah, a very vague, legally used kind of term. They're saying, we didn't make them to do it. We just forced them to do it. We just pressured them to do it. And then they eventually did it on their own, as of course we strongly suggested, with the threat of arrest, duress, federal investigation, the cutting of tons and tons of money, and a huge battering ram of a stick that we were going to shove up there, you know what, if they didn't do what we wanted them to do. But then they did it. So they just did it on their own, totally nonchalantly, as of course this does represent a major political shift right after the DNC too, where of course there usually is a political bump for the party after their convention. We didn't see that for Kamala Harris. We didn't see that for the DNC. And we're seeing a kind of weird, eclectic group of anti-establishment Avengers come together, coalescing around Donald Trump and the Republican Party that I think now is fair to say Zuckerberg is trying to cozy up to. Will he be able to cozy up to the individuals joining this team? As just in the making of this video, Donald Trump announced that RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard will be joining his transition team that will be joining Senator J.D. Vance and shaping American policies for the potential second Donald Trump administration. Major news, as of course they will be probably joined from advice from individuals like Elon Musk, as there is a major political shift here that I would bet Mark Zuckerberg probably is paying attention to, as of course he has the data, he has information even about when you poop. He knows when you poop before you know when you're about to poop. He knows things about you that would absolutely terrify you when you would actually look at the metadata and the information that he has about every little personal thing that you like, that you dislike, that of course you operate on every single day. And let's just be honest here. Let's entertain one of the theories about why this is happening. And I've said this many weeks ago, and I'm going to reiterate it again. He could be looking at the polling. He could be looking at the data, and he could be seeing a huge, major political shift, a major red tide coming this specific election cycle that he has to get in front of, as of course he has been labeled the man that has predominantly helped Joe Biden take office. He did that by spending hundreds of millions of dollars on a voter turnout effort that specifically turned out a lot of Democrats to vote for Joe Biden. Now, the Donald Trump administration and his team know that. And if they become the next ruling party, it's fair to say, just like we had a lot of federal investigations into Elon Musk, that the opposite is of course going to be happening to Mark Zuckerberg. As of course Zuckerberg previously, just a couple weeks ago, represented a huge money threat against the Republicans, against Donald Trump. And if you're Donald Trump and if you're the Republicans, you're seeing him as the person who of course could oust you at any moment, at any time, and therefore that is an animal, that is a beast that needs to be defanged immediately. And if you're Zuckerberg and you're seeing the private data and the private information about the American people not buying into the Kamala Harris PR carefully marketed campaign, you're saying to yourself, hey, I got to switch teams right now. I got to run somewhere to the middle in order to not be absolutely obliterated for the damage that I previously caused to the other side just 4 years ago. Now, the government denying that they played a role in here is absolutely fascinating because they clearly did. And they do to a lot of social media platforms, including the one that we are on right now. As the tone that Zuckerberg is issuing right now is totally different than one he did in 2024, as he revealed that he will not be endorsing anyone this upcoming election cycle, and even previously describing Donald Trump as a, quote, badass. Yes, you heard that correctly. Mark Zuckerberg literally is calling Donald Trump a badass, a complete transition, a major shift, a major change from one of the most powerful people in this country. As of course, the Zuckerbucks no longer will be there for the Democrats, which of course will be a major shift in the larger kind of political alliances that have shifted, that have changed, and are now currently more favorable to Donald J. Trump. Now, Facebook could be implicated in a lot of things, as of course they are a major lobby in Washington, D.C. They always lobby against data privacy laws. And if Donald Trump becomes the next president of the United States, there are many things that the administration could do to specifically halter, hurt, or put in check Mark Zuckerberg and his huge Meta corporation that wields a vast amount of power and influence in our society. As of course, tech CEOs are now being the latest target of governments, mainly because they have so much sway and so much influence in our political discourse. And if they didn't have the sway, if they didn't have the influence, they wouldn't be, of course, threatened with arrest. They wouldn't be arrested. They wouldn't be investigated. They wouldn't have as much federal money going into them if that wasn't the particular case here. And we are seeing A major admission from Mark Zuckerberg that Eric Weinstein says should lead to some kind of restitution in damages and money lost to a lot of the individuals that, of course, were defamed here, that lost their reputation, that lost their job, that lost their ability to speak to their fellow man and woman. As, of course, Facebook just admitted to discriminating against individuals because of the federal government putting pressure on them. I was one of the individuals that, of course, was heavily screwed over by Facebook. Our influence, our reach absolutely halted to nothing, to zero. Why? Because the federal government got involved here and said, shut these guys up, and Facebook did. And we have absolutely no presence at all when we had a huge, significant one many years ago. There should be some kind of money paid in damages to all the individuals that were screwed over here, which I absolutely agree with Eric Weinstein on. Now, there's another thing to talk about here, and that, of course, is the larger transition that Mark Zuckerberg has been doing within the last few weeks and months. That is really peculiar, to say the least here, as some individuals are saying, maybe he just changed as an individual. And there is an argument to make here, even though I personally don't want to believe it. As, of course, within the last few years, Mark Zuckerberg has started to work out. He started to train MMA. He started to hang out with a lot of major UFC stars. And he started to show up at UFC events where, of course, Donald Trump usually routinely goes to as well. As he definitely looks a lot different, carries himself a lot different than he previously did before, as some people are saying that publicly for the last 20 years, even after academic analysis, he hasn't really come out as a personal human being, as some people are arguing that he probably hired a PR firm, a marketing firm, in order to transition him from the geek, from the nerd that he was before, to, of course, the MMA fighter. Donald Trump, badass calling, Biden administration dunking on individual that he is, of course, right now. Other people are saying the transition is actually legitimate, as even the Tate brothers are complimenting him for his physical transformation, as they have announced that he is moving in the right direction. Now, could it be that Mark Zuckerberg started to work out, started to take care of himself, started to, of course, boost his testosterone, which turned him into a right-wing jerk, according to The Guardian, which is correlated with, of course, taking care of yourself? That could be a legitimate thing, because when you do take care of yourself, you don't need the government to do it. And when you don't need the government to do it and to step into your life, you become less likely to become a Democrat, a liberal, a woke consumer, tard and useful ninny of the establishment. So is it that Zuckerberg legitimately changed? I don't know. I still think it's a PR firm. As the other thing that we have to realize here is there could be a government whistleblower that came over to the Republicans and whistleblowed on all of us. There could be even a whistleblower within Facebook that came out that Mark Zuckerberg found out about, since, of course, he spies on everything that you do. And he could see, oh, my God, they're going to expose all this, and we're going to look really bad. And we don't have much options here. What are we going to do? Well, I'm just going to release the information beforehand so it looks like I'm doing the right thing. That's the third possibility of what's unfolding here. What do you think is really going on here? Let me know in the comment section. Is Mark Zuckerberg scared that the red wave is coming and he's trying to shift political alliances? Did he legitimately change because he started working out and actually has now more testosterone than he ever had before in his life? Or is there a whistleblower? Or all of those things happening at the same time? And that's why we're seeing this major reveal during a major election year, which absolutely screws over the current establishment. Zuckerberg has to be careful here, because if he oversteps his balance, the establishment is going to slap him back. He's going to mess him up really bad. And he kind of understands that with the power that they wield within big tech social media, that sadly is in the hands of the intel agencies that, of course, control what we can say and cannot say. Again, our reach obliterated on Facebook. Like there's no point for us to even be there. We get like one person liking our Facebook page. Absolutely egregious. Here on YouTube, again, reach is just down slowly. And we're losing subscribers right now. We just lost 113 subscribers. From what? I don't know anyone who literally unsubscribes from channels. That doesn't make sense. What's really going on here? Well, it's the intel agencies, probably. As, of course, all the other social media platforms through the roof. doing really well. On the ones that are influenced by the intel agencies, not so well. The ones independent, the ones that are free, kicking major freaking ass. And that's only because of you. That's only because of your support. And no matter what happens, sign up to our email list. We're going to put that in the link below. I believe the link is enoughofcensorship.com. Yep, enoughofcensorship.com is the website. Sign up on our email list. We release free members-only videos once a week, so you can get a sneak peek at what members of lookunfiltered.com get, as we have another really awesome exclusive video coming out for members right after this one that you should check out. As of course, members also get the ability to call in to our live show. We're going to be doing another live show later on today, 6 p.m. Eastern. Stay tuned for that and a lot more, all here on youtube.com/wearechange. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys really signing up. Right now, we need your support more than ever. We need your participation. We need you directly getting involved here. So if you haven't signed up yet, what are you waiting for? Sign up right now, and I will see you there right after this broadcast. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on youtube.com/wearechange.